Hey everybody, this is a quick video for you to explain how the King George letter works. So first off, if you open up the King George letter, you see this right here. Now in the corner it says click here for a link to instructions. If you open that, it looks like this. Okay, and this will explain everything you need to know for how this letter works. Basically, it's like you're writing your own Declaration of Independence. You're writing a letter to the king and explaining, why you're upset, why you're breaking away. It's going to have, you're going to have it so it has the same parts as the declaration too. For example, part one, explain why you're writing. Okay. So when we look at part one, this is like looking at what we were watching for the preamble and the introduction of the Constitution. And when we looked at the preamble and the introduction, I gave you a kind of a more modern translation, which is this right here. Basically what you're doing is you're breaking that down in summarizing in a paragraph. Okay. So when you read through this, how could you really simply summarize that in what the American colonists are trying to say here? So that's step one paragraph that summarizes that introduction. If you need any help with that, let me know. But basically, run through it and say, okay, what are the main points here? And you're going to write that for your first paragraph to the king. Now, as you can see, the second part is explain how 3 British acts violate your rights as a colonist. So for that, we have a few things. You need to choose 3 British acts, okay, and talk about how do they violate one of the rights in these categories right here. So for this, we're going to go back a ways to a worksheet that you had, which looked like this. If you're an online student. If you're not an online student, think back to the discussion we had about should we break away from the British. Okay, so here are the acts. There were 4 of them, and I would say look at what you did for the colonial merchants. Okay, why were they against these things? So you're going to choose 3 of these to talk about. Okay, you can always go to this, Colonial Views of British Acts. There's a video for it too. And then look at each of the acts if you can't remember it. But in here on, oh, I got the wrong one. Yeah, on this document here, you should have explained why people were upset with it. So you'll choose 3 and say, for example, you created the Stamp Act. This was unfair for us because whatever reason. And then you're going to choose one of the rights that it breaks. Right to life and liberty, right to sovereignty. And for that, you do have this graphic organizer here where you kind of explain what each one was. So let's say you say, we are upset because of the Stamp Act, because it did this to us and that. We believe that it broke maybe this one, number 3, or whichever one you want, and explain how it violates that right. So you're basically saying this act harmed us in this way. These are the rights we have that it violated. That's what you're doing for the second section. So it can get a little tricky. If you need any help, let me know. But that's what we're thinking about there. So an example, you can't use this one because we didn't talk about it. The Quartering Act forced us to house and feed soldiers. This violates our right to sovereignty, number 2 up here, because we did not give the government permission to allow soldiers in our house. So think about 3 of the other 4 acts we talked about and how they violate one of these rights. The third part, explain that because of this, you're declaring independence. This is super simple. This is the easiest one of all. Basically, you're saying because you as a king have done these terrible things to us, we are breaking away, we are creating our own government. And then you'll sign the document like we have up here, sincerely, and add your name. So again, Dear King George is already there. First paragraph, explain the reasons why you're writing. Second part, choose 3 British acts and how they violate your rights. And third part, simply declare that because of these things you are breaking away. Put sincerely, add your name. That's what we have. If you are in class and just happen to be sick, the assignment is the same, but it looks a little bit different. it'll look a little bit different because you had a different sheet. Let me find it here. If you're an online student, you stop the video right now because you have the information you need. Yes. Okay, so if you were in class, you had a sheet that looked like this. And so this is what you should use to look at the information about those 4 acts. And then go back to the graphic organizer here to figure out which rights violates. So that's it. If you need any more help, feel free to contact me, and we'll have a great letter to the king. Thanks.